time of the week again. It's time for Chit Chat Across the Pond. This week it's not across the pond, well, unless you count maybe the San Francisco Bay. I'm here with Sarah Lane from TWiT, and welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
How exciting. This is way fun. I really appreciate you taking the time.
I'm excited too.
Out. Yeah.
Happy to. Well, we're both at Macworld, so why not?
Yeah, right. How fun to finally get to meet you. So, the reason I want to have you on the show is I'm really interested in trying to figure out where geek girls come from. Because I don't find any young geek girls. Well, when two
people love each other very much. No.
So I know a lot of young geek boys that write scripts for me. I mean, these guys are just crazy smart and they're all into it, and they do all this stuff and they're very visible in the podcasting community. But I don't know any young geek girls. I know lots of geek adult girls, and I don't know where we come from if there aren't any young ones. So I thought it'd be fun to just kind of talk about your background and how you got into this. And so, how old were you when you knew you were a geek?
Well, there wasn't even, if there was a word called geek, I never heard about it until I started watching John Hughes movies where, the one who didn't have any friends, that character was the geek, and that was like a bad thing. And you hoped that character would stop being a geek so that then he or she would have friends and be prettier.
Socially acceptable.
Yeah, and get to go to the dance and stuff like that. So I certainly grew up knowing that geek wasn't necessarily a bad thing to be, but would be perceived badly by people who are supposed to matter. And at a young age, that all that peer pressure stuff is really important to kids.
Right.
It certainly was to me. So I think, well, my parents would probably tell you, before I ever really realized that not all kids were doing this, is I was really obsessed with like recording machines, microphones, tape recorders, playing something and then rewinding it and listening to it back, playing it on double speed. I just really liked the idea of recording things.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so that was something that I started to, like, Dad had a, some old Yamaha tape recorder, really old thing. I would say, probably about late 70s when I was just a tot. I wanted to do that. That's what I wanted to do for fun. When Sesame Street was over, I wanted to play tape recorder. And so then, and I'm an only child, and they needed to keep me occupied. And I mean,
Give her the tape recorder, Bob.
It turned into something where there would be like a new cassette would be bought for Sarah. Look what we got, and that would keep me occupied for weeks because I'd record one side and I'd record the other side, and I'd listen to the first side, and then I'd splice in like where I didn't think it was very good, something else on top. Then it turned into sort of like at-home radio shows, really like. I mean, you want to like hear like the crazy mind of a child. All of my old cassette tapes.
Oh, did they save them?
Oh yeah.
Oh, nice.
Well, I did.
Nice.
I would never throw those away because I don't know. They're silly, but they really represent a lot of time spent and stuff that I really, really enjoyed.
It's almost like you have a diary, except it's your own voice telling the stories.
Well, and pretending to be a newscaster.
Oh, okay. So you were meant to be in podcasting.
Interviewing.
Then. You were born
Ferdinand Marcos. Yeah. Well, it's funny. It's like,
not his wife with all the shoes. It was Ferdinand you wanted to talk to.
That's right. Well, because he was politically more important, and I was a serious interviewer.
Serious newscaster.
So I did stuff like that. So that got me really interested in, stereo systems. When we'd go to the mall, I didn't really want to go shopping, but I wanted to go to the stereo floor. And in those days, Macy's had a whole floor for electronics. They don't really do that anymore.
Yeah, right.
But you just, you go up to, it was usually like the top floor up by the, silverware. And they would just leave me in the electronics area, and I'd look around and press buttons, and I just really liked all of that. I liked knowing how it worked. I liked comparing systems to see if, there was a system that was more expensive. What was the cool thing that I wasn't getting, on the Sanyo version of the Sony? And that was something that I realized, none of my girlfriends really like any of this stuff. They kind of like that I liked it, though.
Oh.
They'd come over to the house and they'd be like, ooh, Sarah's got this stereo stuff. Or a microphone, where you can hold it like an adult. But I knew that was something that I was interested in that girls my age weren't interested in. Boys my age were more
So did that, as you got older, as you got into high school, did you try to hide that side of yourself?
No, then it got cool.
Oh.
Because then you could,
So you grew up in a better era than me.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, because then it turned into like I was the first person to secretly record telephone conversations that then could be used as blackmail. When the guy said I never said that, I'd say, no, you did, and I have you on tape. Totally unethical, but it was like I think that I was sort of starting to. I became someone where people would come to me and say, how do I do this? And I really liked, because I was a know-it-all, and I still am, I really liked having that answer, being able to tinker and sort of figure out a solution. If you don't know how the VCR works, I will program it for you, no problem. I don't care what the interface looks like, I can do it. You just give me 5 seconds, stay back. So
now,
that was fun.
Did you like the hardware side or mostly the software side? I mean, the soft side of it. Like, do you like installing it or do you like the programming of it, that side of it?
I would say, as a kid, hardware was more interesting to me.
Oh,
it was more fun.
Okay.
I have since become much more of a software person, and I think that has to do a little bit more with just lack of tinkering time.
Yeah.
Some people just love troubleshooting on hardware, and
the hardware side to me is almost, for some reason, terrifies me. So
Yeah.
I loaded 3 apps on my BlackBerry on an off-ramp once. I mean, that's how much I'll just throw stuff on and see what happens. And, ooh, cool, that's interesting. That broke,
Right.
But the idea of pulling a hard drive just gives me cold chills. I'll do it.
Yeah.
And actually, many years ago, after watching Patrick Norton with Leo, I decided to build my own PC. And I was, really geared up. I took a week off of work to do it, because and I was really bummed. I was done in like 4 hours. I was like, well, now what am I supposed to do? That was too easy.
Yeah.
And that helped a little bit, but I don't find myself.
Well, you're just good at it, I guess.
Yeah, there's that. Well,
a week.
It took me an extra half a day because I didn't seat the Wi-Fi card properly. But that was all I had to do. But I found that it seems like girls tend more towards the software side of things than the hardware things. I'm a mechanical engineer, and that's still really, really rare.
Right.
And I probably shouldn't be terrified of hardware and a mechanical engineer at the same time. But there
I will say, as far as hardware goes, I hate cars. I mean, I don't hate them because I like to get from point A to point B, but you open up the hood of a car and I'm just like, I can't get out of here fast enough. That scares me.
Right.
It's very intimidating to me. It's never been something that I've really even had an interest in getting to know a little bit more. I'm not really sure why the innards of a PC doesn't repel me the same way. But I don't know. Maybe it's because...
Maybe it's all the grease.
Maybe. Well, that doesn't
It's
help.
also really dangerous if you do it wrong.
Yeah.
What's the worst thing if you screw your PC up? You have to fix it.
Maybe I've seen too many dramatic car explosions in Hollywood movies. I'm not sure what it is, but I wouldn't say hardware was really my forte anymore, but it certainly was back in the day. Then again, I think at least for my interest, things were a little bit simpler. I was playing with tape recorders and putting batteries in my microphone, and it was still just kind of the process.
I took my phone apart when I was a little girl. My dad was so excited because I took my phone apart. But I mean, it was a bell with a hammer when I'm talking about it. You take your phone apart now and you go, well, there's a circuit board, Put it back together. There's nothing to do these days.
Right.
So let's take a turn towards the computing side of things. What was your first computer?
It was an Atari 2600.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if my mom or my dad bought it. Probably my dad. But it was weird. We had like I said, I'm an only child, so it was all about keeping me occupied. But actually, all 3 of us had our favorite games. There was Pac-Man. There was, it was called Breakout. It's like Pong, but I know Breakout. You know Breakout.
Sure, yeah.
And then, what was the third game that we played a lot of? Might have been Asteroids. But this is just the funny story. We played the crap out of this system, and at the time it was like we were the only people that we knew who had an Atari games console, and we didn't know where to put it because people didn't do things.
You didn't have it on your TV in the family room, right?
No, because it seemed weird to us. That's where you watch the news, or that's where you watch a movie or something. And I don't even know if we were watching movies then. We probably had our first Betamax right around the same time. So it was in my parents' room, with, on this, crappy little, the first TV that we had, the other TV. And now that I think about it, I'm like, can you imagine kids playing all their computer games in their parents' room? It's very unheard of, but at the time, that's in my memory. That's where I spent all this time. It's like in the corner of my parents' bedroom playing Atari. But after a certain point, we had worn out the Pac-Man game. You know, there was too much dust in the system. And I'm not really sure what had happened. So
ran it into the ground.
Ran it into the ground. It still worked though. But when you fired up the game, you wanted to play, instead of ready, where it would say in the middle, everyone knows Pac-Man ready ! It said Gady. And it had an exclamation point before the G and after the Y.
Oh no, that's freaky.
And my dad thought, I've reached a new level. I'm that good.
I'm a Gady.
I've unlocked Pac-Man somehow. Yeah, I'm in some sort of like an alternate universe. So yeah, that was our first. That was our first computer. Our first computer that was more for word processing and less just for fun was. Gosh, I wouldn't even remember the model number off the top of my head.
Of some sort, or
no,
PC?
It was an IBM.
Oh, okay.
It was an IBM. Yeah, my mom had. She was a like an executive assistant for many years, and so typing was a big deal. And at their work, when they moved from typewriters, she was trained on WordPerfect.
Right.
And or whatever WordPerfect was before it was WordPerfect, and so she had a copy of that she brought home and. Ooh! Wow! Look, he could just type all day. Yeah.
So my mom is legally blind, and she was just about 3 months ago. We finally shut down her 27-year-old PC running DOS, running WordPerfect 5.1.
Wow!
It was 27 years that thing ran.
Wow!
It was amazing.
That is impressive.
But I mean, once she knew that, we didn't want to try to teach her something else because it was a typewriter was all it was for. But she couldn't. It had 2 4-megabyte partitions. It was awesome. We upgraded it from a 286 to a 386 at one point. That was a big deal.
Well, these are numbers that it's so easy to laugh at now, but at the time. That was so much.
And for an awful long time, it did the job it was invented to do. But she'd call me up and say, well, so, Allison, I need to double space. How do I do that in WordPerfect? I'm like, oh, I'm not going to know this. But I found it online, and I had to make up a song for her to remember it. Because it was like, comma, 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 F8, F8, F7, comma, comma, F8. It's like all these weird keystrokes and everything.
Oh, my gosh.
So to help her remember it, because she couldn't write it down and see it. So she had to be able to memorize the keystrokes.
That's awesome.
It was funny though.
I do that too. Sometimes I try to remember things in song because you just remember things like that. I can imagine that if you have a vision impairment, that really comes in handy.
I would think so. I don't know how they remember all that stuff. So, do you ever talk to young girls about tech or geekness or being that it's cool or anything like that? I mean, because as a really beautiful woman, I forgot to do the suck up to you at the beginning part. Yes, no.
Thank
but
you.
As a beautiful woman,
go
you
on.
had to have been, please, a little more. It's got to have been really different. The traditional vision of the geek girl is one of the girls on Big Bang Theory, right? That sort of thing. But
sure.
Did that stand in your way or anything, or was it just you said it was cool?
Well, I thought it was cool. I guess.
Poor delusional Sarah.
Right. I the thing is I actually sometimes will listen to some of my peers, men or women, who will say, real geeks know that high school is awful. And it gets better type of conversations.
We all hoped it at least.
I hear that a lot from my peers. And I don't really know how I got lucky enough to say that I never felt like my interests were stupid or looked down upon ever. And I was also just kind of a social kid, and I did a lot of extracurricular stuff. And
so maybe you were balanced.
Yeah.
So not as the traditional geek where it's all about Dungeons and Dragons or something like that, right?
No, I definitely had a lot of different interests. I wasn't just doing my little radio shows by myself 24 hours a day, but it was something that was fun for me. I felt like it set me apart from a lot of my female classmates. It's sort of like sometimes being the girl that's good at math. Lots of girls can be good at math, but some don't apply themselves because they don't think they're going to be good, or not supposed to be, or they don't believe in themselves.
Yeah.
And I always thought, it's awesome. You call on me and I know the answer. That makes me feel great about myself. Yeah. And I never thought of that as I don't know, a negative thing. Like I was supposed to be better at soccer, that sort of thing. So when I hear people say, well, you know, you're a real geek when you can talk about how awful, you know, your childhood was or how hard it was to make friends.
Like, I had a good time.
Yeah, I mean, I feel for that person because it would suck to spend a lot of time wondering if there were other people like you.
Worrying like that. You know, you bring up not applying yourself in math as young girls. I had my daughter was in 2nd grade and had a sleepover with a friend, and I overheard the girl go, "Oh, I'm bad at math. I hate math. I heard about algebra. I'm gonna hate that." And so I sat them down and I taught them algebra. I said, okay, you got like 3 apples and 1 apple. What do you got? You got 4 apples. And then I started saying, okay, 3. And then I drew an apple. You know, okay, what is that? You know, and then I started doing substitutions. And they loved it. They're like, give me another one. Give me another one.
Yeah.
We did it for like 45 minutes. And it didn't matter whether they ever remembered it. They remembered that algebra was fun.
Yeah.
And I just wanted her to know that, to not just be declaring it. But she was like such a blonde, no insult to all blondes, but you know, she was acting like the typical stereotypical blonde, you know, and
not
I was just like,
physical stereotype, but
right. And so I felt it was like my mission was I had to make sure she didn't think that way, you know.
Well, I've always wondered why. I know some people actually had a problem, with numbers, and it's it's confusing to many people. But I've always wondered why numbers seems to be something that people just go, oh God, I'll never need
fractions.
This type thing.
I hate fractions. That's the classic, right? I love math.
To me, it's like it's problem solving, and you feel so good when you get it right.
Plus, you know when you get it right in math. You can tell if you got English. How do you know if you got it right or not?
Which is why, to this day, I have the scary dreams where I've forgotten to go to math for a whole semester and I won't graduate because you cannot BS math. You can BS all sorts of things, but not math. If you don't know how to do it, then you won't be able to do it. So, yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Well, let's shift gears now. Let's talk about a little more to the present. What's a day in the life of working at TWiT? What's it like?
TWiT is great.
I mean, that slave driver, Leo. I mean,
well, he's terrible.
Horrible man.
He's a horrible man. I've learned to look past it after a lot of meditation.
Yeah.
But TWiT is great. For anybody who doesn't know, I worked with Leo many years ago. We've always stayed in touch, even when we weren't working together on a daily basis. But I always knew that he was an extremely good mentor. Talk about a real geek at heart. Not only is he passionate about this stuff, but he's just really, really super smart. You know, there's like smart people, and then there's Leo people. You know, you don't encounter people like Leo all the time. So I knew that even after we had parted ways job-wise, that career-wise, I really wanted to be on the same path. Okay. Yeah, and we've always kept in touch. So when TWiT first started, I was working at G4, which Tech TV morphed into down in Los Angeles.
By the way, I took my TiVo back to my cable box back to the company that I got it from and said, I'm giving you this back because you guys canceled Tech TV. Because I was just like, that's why I got it, was for Tech TV. I don't need this anymore.
Yeah.
I got it back later. Well, I was so pissed.
Well, I mean, that's the thing about Tech TV was, and sometimes the people who worked there will kind of have a conversation like, what was so special about it? Because there are all sorts of jobs that people have that are great and rewarding. You make a lot of friends. And Tech TV was one of those places, but there was something else about it, and that had to do with the fact that we were all talking about this cool stuff that we liked. Right. We got to take apart computers and try to, crash systems and learn things and talk to interesting people. But all of the people who watched the channel were really, really loyal. They weren't sort of like, I don't know, Tech TV.
Yeah,
maybe I'll learn something once a week. They wanted to watch it all day.
Yeah.
They really wanted to watch us on a daily basis. Right. They were, and they were really bummed when it went away. It wasn't necessarily the biggest audience in the world. Of course, it wasn't, or else it would still be, a channel, cable network. But it was the right audience. So Leo finally was like, hold on a second. I don't need to wait for a cable company to try to put something like this together again. I realized that niche audience now it has nothing to watch. So why not just build a network around fewer people overall that we can build out in smart ways and not try to appeal to mass market, or get away from the message. We can have very specific shows for people who want to just talk about Windows. Let's do Windows for an hour.
Right.
Let's just talk about Mac. So that's how obviously Twit got started. And at a point, there was advertising revenue, it started coming in, and Leo had the opportunity to start hiring people because he can't do it all, and he needed support, and he turned to people that he had worked with in the past. Many of us have worked with Leo in the past. Twit has other employees too, but that's how it all started. So for me, a typical day is I live in San Francisco, and Twit's in Petaluma. So I have my 45-minute commute each way, if I'm lucky. And I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I'm teaching myself French with this variety of French podcasts that I listen to. I keep myself occupied as much as I can.
Well, it's always good to keep Sarah occupied.
Right.
We've already learned that, if nothing else, today.
Right, yeah, exactly. So that's kind of, I get my head in the game before I go to work. And then 5 days a week, I shoot TNT. So before I even leave the house, I feel like I've read as many tech blogs as I could possibly cram into my head, because we don't actually know until a couple hours before showtime.
You can't read it yesterday.
What makes the cut.
Sure.
So we read as much as possible, and then we all have a conversation of what stays, what goes, what's our top story, what stuff that we need to mention, but we don't necessarily have to have a conversation about it. So
and are we going to let Tom and Iaz have a food fight this time or not? There's all those things.
Yeah, and we try to keep the conversation as organic as possible, but it's sometimes nice to know, let's say on a, some sort of like a hot button issue, an Android story, just for an example. I might say, listen, I think I'm going to have this sort of I'm going to come at it this way.
Sure.
And we'll all kind of go, cool, this sounds like a good conversation. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
And then we sort of let the conversation happen when we're finally on the air.
It's oddly organic and yet crisp at the same time. You can get into this big rambling thing where you're arguing about something for a long time, but you guys don't. You lay it out here, they argue back, you argue, okay, done, move on to the next one. And it seems to stay tight. It's got enough content, but it's not, so I don't ever feel like it got cut short. And yet it's crisp. I really like the show.
Thank you. We like it too.
Breakfast every day.
I'm glad. That's great. Yeah. So you watch
TNT
the morning
thing.
After.
Yeah. And then
we've heard a lot of people do that. So that's why we try our best to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Even
you guys
if you're watching live,
so
great.
Yesterday. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We try. I'm actually guilty of that a lot. We try to make sure that we say tomorrow, Thursday. So if you're watching Thursday, you're not going to miss something that you thought was happening on Friday.
Then I watch a little, just started doing some iPad today, mixed in with some social hour when I'm on the treadmill, that sort of thing, doing a little bit. I was a big All My Children fan for 30 years. And what was I going to do? My soap opera was I filled it with you guys. So, hey.
I am honored. I was also an All My Children fan for many years. Oh. My mom and I would tape it during the day because neither of us would be home. She was working, I was at school. And then that was our non-geeky time after my dad was later.
I loved it because it was, as an engineer, I got a real serious job and I had all these employees and people I worry about, all the stress and everything, and then I'd go turn into a vegetable for an hour at the gym. And people would try to get me to go to meetings at lunch. I'm like, well, no, I have to go to the gym.
I've got my stories.
Yeah, I've got my stories.
It's my routine. Well, the iPad, this could apply to any tablet, but the iPad is the tablet that I have, has made my gym time my work time, because now I just go to work or I go to the gym and I load up all my tabs of all the news stories that I feel like I really need to.
You got to be cycling,
absorb.
Not running, to be reading.
Not running. Okay. It's either elliptical or bike.
I can almost do elliptical, but I got to make
I could walk, but if I'm at the gym, I want to be So most mornings, not every morning, but most mornings, that's what I'm doing first. I read while I'm exercising.
It makes the time go flying past.
And it's like, I know I'm not going to exercise when I get home, so it's perfect.
It's not going to happen.
I feel like I'm getting away with something.
You're sneaking it in. Well, I definitely feel that way with working out at lunch, definitely. But that's my time. Everybody knows that's what I do. I go to the gym.
No, it's good to have a routine.
So I told you we would keep it to 30 minutes. Any last thoughts on the future looks and technology? What's exciting to you? Or is it just like this pace is just going to keep going? This seems really fun.
Well, it does seem really fun. I wouldn't say I'm enjoying watching the crazy mobile shift right now. I mean, I am enjoying reporting on it. I'm not enjoying companies not doing well, but right. That's a fact of the matter is that the landscape of mobile is like shifting. It's like tectonic plates where you're like, they're going too fast. Oh my gosh. New Canyon being made.
So, 4 Android models came out while we were in here.
Right. Seriously. And HTC canceled many of theirs. But that part of technology is fascinating. I think that's a better way to put it. I'm really fascinated by how business models have to change really quickly because the global marketplace, people's interests and habits certainly shift country to country.
Right.
And that's actually fascinating too, the way that people digest things differently. But so many emerging markets just hop, skipped, and jumped over so much of the computing age that a country like the U.S. enjoyed. So they're going straight to mobile and they're using things in different ways.
Skipping straight to it.
Yeah, and all of a sudden they're emerging markets and they've got disposable income. And look at China. And everybody's going, oh gosh, now we got to look at China. What's China doing?
China's big.
China's so important. They have so many people. They've got all this money. So it's going to be a really crazy
that
5
rapid
years.
Development and that rapid business model change, then your rim, and then that's fun to watch too. So
right. Well, yes. If you're a sadist, then it's really fun to watch the rim. Well, hey, it's got a new CEO. Who knows? Who knows what's going to go on
it's sort of like
with RIM
they could just take a blind date at this point would be better than whatever they were going to do, the path they were on.
They are trying something different, which if I want to be an optimist about it, I say, hey, that's good.
Sure.
I don't know necessarily that it's going to be enough, but that it is fascinating to watch. Yeah. I'm also I'm really interested in how to enjoy entertainment a variety of ways that do not involve cable companies, direct TVs, things like that. Sure. I got rid of cable, I think it was about a year ago now, and it was I knew I was watching a bunch of junk, and I didn't really want to watch anymore. I certainly didn't want to pay for stuff that I wasn't watching. Right. But at the same time, there are so many ways to get content now. It's just messy. Right now it's messy.
Right.
It's like I got my
really
Roku,
got
my Apple TV, got my OTA antenna.
Mini, we got the PS3, we got the
and I really want a boxy box dongle, but I can't really justify it right now. So it's messy, but it's doable. Like you can do it. You just you got
Luckily,
some inputs.
You like programming the VCR, so
it's fun.
It takes me 45 minutes to start a show, but
Right. Yeah, I enjoy all of that, but it would be nice to have one system to rule them all. Now, I'm not voting for one system to rule them all, but one day that would be nice. Or, I don't know, just
something
figure out how they can talk to each other.
Seamless.
Yeah.
Or, if it's hard for you and me,
right,
that's a bad sign, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to figure it out, going, wait, this input, wait, where's the sound coming out?
Yeah.
It is
messy. I think
messy.
what's hard is trying to figure out why the heck I pay for Hulu Plus, and then 30 Rock, I can only watch through Hulu on my laptop. Even though I pay $8 a month. And that's one of my favorite shows. Like, that's what, that is hard for me to process.
Like 2 weeks
Someone
ago,
explain,
already.
Because that is fuzzy math right there. Like, that bothers me. So I'm looking forward to things like that being ironed out as content creators realize people will pay, but don't be
stupid.
Don't be unreasonable with us.
Yeah, come on.
Come on.
Play fair.
Yeah.
Play fair.
So I'm looking forward to seeing where that industry is going to go.
I love this because I can't see an end to how fun this is. That things are just changing all the time, and the technology from the computer side and the laptop side and the tablet side and the phones and whatever's going to come up next. It just seems to just stay on this pace. And it's just really fun.
Yeah, I love it. I try to. I try my best to unplug regularly. Sometimes on the weekends I don't. I wouldn't say I'm not online because that's not true. I mean, I basically should have this
Goes
glued
right
to
there.
me. Yeah, it's
They got a little thing
right
that
in my
you
heart.
can hook it to your
right
hand.
in my heart. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're like
that
one.
purple lady,
us
I'm
two.
sure you saw her. She's got this thing.
Yeah, there are a
Hook it to your
few of
hand.
them actually. Yeah, it's tight. But no, I wouldn't say that I'm not online, but I do my best to kind of
Not stay as obsessed with it.
yeah.
On the weekend.
Well,
Yeah.
just there. I have other interests,
Sure,
and I think
sure.
that's really important. But it's really, really fun to be able to do this as a career because I know that I would be reading these stories and following these trends and tinkering with
To get
these
paid
toys.
to do it?
Absolutely, it is such a good position to be in. I'm really lucky.
I do have to tell you, I've resented you for years. I was at the Podcast Expo, and I got to talk to the great and powerful Leo Laporte. And, when Leo focuses his energy on you, it's just like, it's a wonderful thing. And I'm talking to him, and all of a sudden he goes, Sarah! And he, practically dove off the stage to go talk to you, and I was just, kind of slunk away in the corner going, okay, I guess he's done with me now. He had not seen you in, a year or something like that, and you'd walked up to the stage.
But he does that all the time. It's his attention span. It's very bad.
You had no idea I had
he does
been
that to
there,
me 12 times a day.
Oh, okay.
Where we just
right.
go,
Well, I
we
think
were
I can stop.
talking here.
I think I think I'm past it now.
Good.
I think
I'm glad.
Yeah. It'll be okay.
Glad you've moved past it.
All right. Yeah. Very good. Well, any last words? Anything? We plugged pretty much everything. I think.
No.
iPad Today, Tech News Today,
the Social Hour
with
yeah.
Amber MacArthur. That's a great show. That's
Yeah.
Really. You've had some amazing interviews on that.
Thanks. Yeah. I love Amber. She is just smart and nice, and she's kind of the whole package. I really like working with
I'd
her.
ask her these questions too.
Oh, I think
where she grew up, how she became such a geek, because she's pretty too.
Yeah, she has a really interesting story. She's so self-made. She really
nice.
just kind of she's sort of a no fear kind of a person. Not to go crazy into Amber territory, but that's one of the things I like about her is she sort of just does stuff. I think I'll start a production company. Oh, that's going pretty well. I think I'll start. She has ideas and then she executes.
Actually executes. Not just
instead
ideas.
of being afraid.
Okay.
And I think that's what holds a lot of people back.
Yeah.
Certainly women.
Yeah.
But
I
people
agree.
in general. Last words. We're cranking along at Twit. Things are going really well. I have ideas for shows that I want to do. I'm not quite sure how many hours in the day I have to make them reality, but definitely in the next year we hope to add a few more shows to our roster, and I'll definitely be involved in some of that. So
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for being on the show, Sarah.
Thanks so
I really
much for
appreciate it. I
having
know
me.
it's a crazy day.
yeah, but
Right.
no, this was fun. Thanks.
Okay, thanks.